Thank you for your time, sir. All right, let me start by asking what you think about the removal of Mele Kyari and some top management of the NNPCL, the shake-up. What do you make of it, particularly the reasons given?
Well, thank you very much. A government or Mr. President is at the pleasure of replacing, any appointee he has, to better, his own governance. However, for me, I don't see, much thing that will change, by replacing the management and the board of NNPC for the simple reason. NNPC is changes that will come unless, it is terrible, if it is completely unbundled. What do I mean by that? NNPC, has some strategic business units who, who are subsidiaries of NNPC, which have not been capitalized, and therefore, they are so integrated to the top-most management. So the group executive director has so much to do, as opposed to him, channeling his own resources to run the group, to run NNPC as a group. And again, like I said, it is systemic. Whatever, people you bring until the government decide to change the system of ownership of NNPC, there is nothing much that can be achieved.
You said that until the government decides to change the system of ownership of NNPC, but right now it's a limited liability company. I mean, what ownership are you referring to, sir?
Well, I'm referring to simple, it is owned by, I think either 50-50, I cannot remember, by Ministry of Finance Incorporated and also Ministry of Petroleum Resources Incorporated. As we are today, while Ministry of Finance Incorporated is incorporated, but the Ministry of Petroleum Resources is not incorporated, is hanging. So, and NNPC is supposed to be a federation, entity. It is not just a federal government entity. So we should know that. So the ownership of NNPC must trickle, to the ownership of the whole federation, by the federal government, by the state governments, and by the local governments. Until such a thing is done, for federal government to hold it in trust for state governments and for local government is not enough. So that is what I mean by, decentralizing, or divesting, the interests of NNPC.
All right. One issue that seems to be, to have been recurrent over the years, and has been discussed, is corruption and the issue of accountability, particularly within the NNPC. And over the years, we've seen governments come and go, some of which have tried to sort of nip this in the bud. How do you think, cases of corruption and accountability can be tackled within the NNPC?
That is why I say until you do the right thing, the system of corruption in NNPC cannot be changed, cannot be controlled, no matter how you look at it. For instance, today we said that, the refineries, are subsidiaries of NNPC. But the refineries cannot do anything. They do not have their own board, so they are not independent of the group. So until you capitalize those one and separate them, then you are going to begin to bring insanity into the system. So long as the system is not sanitized to the extent that NNPC is unbundled properly, actually, and you cannot get it right.
There is also another issue being discussed as what we've seen in some, the previous administration, where the president, to a large extent, also doubles as the Minister of Petroleum. For some Nigerians, they would say that might be just too much on, the table of Mr. President. Running the nation entirely is enough burden, and also being a minister of a critical sector. Some are suggesting that, maybe this should even be made into law, that it should be unbundled. The president shouldn't double as a minister at the same time. What's your take on this?
Well, I agree with what Nigerians are saying. It has been done in the past. You know, I could remember is of recent, maybe is President Goodluck Jonathan, who had not been, you know, the minister in charge of petroleum resources. He has his own separate minister. So, but I think it will be too much for Mr. President to run the governance of this country, at the same time to run the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Now, if there's a requirement for accountability, if they want a minister to appear in the National Assembly, you know, to account for NNPC, who will go there? You know, is it Mr. President that will go there? Who will call Mr. President to account? You know, as the number one citizen of this country. So I think, you know, it is in the interest of excellent governance for Mr. President to do, to find, you know, a suitable person, competent person, you know, to handle, you know, the Ministry of, you know, Petroleum Resources, and he can continue, you know, with his own, you know, national governance. It's too much at this level with his age. You know, with so many things, you know, coming into play, with insecurity here, with financial, you know, issues, with economic issues, with all this, I think it will do Nigeria very good if Mr. President can get a competent person to appoint as a substantive Minister of Petroleum Resources.
All right, now let's look at the appointment of Mr. Bashir Ojulari, you know, as the replacement, you know, for Mele Kyari as the Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC. I mean, this is a man with extensive knowledge, you know, in the oil and gas sector. You talked about some changes that need to happen before we can begin to see an effective and efficient NNPCL. Do you think that Mr. Bashir Ojulari, you know, has, given his wealth of experience, has what it takes to effect these changes?
Well, I don't know him much, and with due respect, he's a professional. You know, it's expected he can do, you know, a lot of it. But what I say, the issue is systemic. It is systemic. It is the system itself that will prevent, you know, Mr. Bashir from performing as a professional. You know, so long as NNPC is not unbundled, like I have said before, and so long as, you know, Mr. President, you know, the substantive, you know, Minister of Petroleum Resources, you know, I don't think there's anything much Mr. Ojulari can be able to do. You know, he cannot do better than what, you know, Kyari can do. So, I mean, this is my personal opinion, and I think, you know, until it is done otherwise, I don't see how it is working. Example, I think the permanent secretary, Minister of Finance, that's also a member of the board. Now, who is it from? The shareholders that are on the board, you know, of NNPC. I don't know if they are, whether the managing director of Federal Ministry of, Minister of Finance Incorporated is on the board. I don't know whether, you know, they have incorporated, you know, Minister of Petroleum Resources, you know, to have a nominee on the board. I think there are all these issues that are dragging, you know, the efficiency in NNPC, and that is what, you know, Mr. Bashir will have, you know, challenge with.
All right. Let's also look at, you know, an angle to this too, which of course before, I mean, Nigerians, when it comes to oil price regulation, particularly at the dispense level. I'm talking about premium motor spirit, for instance. Nigerians will look up to the NNPCL, what it's dispensing at, to determine what the trajectory will be. But right now we are beginning to see even private companies, you know, determine the price. So we have some, you know, filling stations, private filling stations selling at, you know, a certain price, even below sometimes what the NNPCL dispenses. Are we beginning to see some sort of light, you know, at the end of the tunnel when it comes to, number one, price, you know, friendly price regulation, particularly for the consumers, and also the availability of the product, given some of the initiatives Mr. President put on ground? I think we are having a bit of connectivity issues with our guest. That's Senator Yusuf Abubakar-Yusuf, former senator representing Taraba Central Senatorial District. We are trying to definitely connect with him. We lost our connection there. We are discussing, of course, the recent shake-up within the NNPCL. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll definitely pick up. Stay with us.